Welcome everyone. Today we'll be going through the fascinating story of the infamous turtle traders. The story of how an argument between nature and nurture turned ordinary people into successful market wizards. We also go through a system based on the principles of the turtle traders, what they used, and we also go through how the Donchian channel indicator works. Finally, we look at some of the results of these systems as well. So here's just an overview of what we'll be going through. Anyway, so the story goes that in the 80s, two successful traders, Bill Eckhart and Richard Dennis, had a tiff over tea one day when Bill Eckhart argued that trading is an art form and that one is born a trader. Richard Dennis, however, believed that trading can be taught to anyone who wants to learn. In essence, it's a nature versus nurture argument. To settle the argument, they took in a group of random people and tried it out. Richard Dennis interviewed them and selected 21 people originally out of the hundreds that applied. Even though he handpicked them, the rule was that anyone in the group may not be a professional trader. Basically, he interviewed people from ballet artists to school teachers. Those who made the cut and stuck to the rules were later able to trade with Dennis's real money and for the most part had successful trading careers after that. The group of traders had an average compounded growth of over 80% per year over the 4 years of trading. In the end, they proved that it did not take a born quality to make a trader. One could be taught trading. We have since progressed from experiments like these and found that it's not necessarily financial acumen or risk-taking that made it, but rather disciplined, hard-working individuals who use methodical approaches. The turtles were only taught for about 2 weeks on how the system works, which we'll go through later. However, it took a much longer time to actually get them to follow it. Interesting to note though, the exact system taught to the rules by Richard Dennis has been published and can be back-tested to check its performance in recent years. The results of such backtest shows a drastic drop in performance after 1986 and even a flat performance from 1996 to 2009. However, Russell Sands contends that the system still works well and said that if you started with $10,000 at the beginning of 2007 and followed the original turtle rules, you would have ended the year with $25,000 or 150% growth. Another interesting fact about the results were that only about 25 to 30% of the trades were actually winners. That means roughly about 70% of the trades were losers. Here are some thoughts from Curtis Faith, who was considered to be the most successful of the turtle trading group. Number one, he believes the reason for their success was because someone gave them a complete trading system. In other words, the entries, the exits, everything was set up before they started. Number two, the position sizing was also a critical factor in the success, playing it smaller when they were losing and bigger when they were winning. He also believes position sizing is one of the most important but least understood components of any trading system. Something to think about. Here's a quick sketch on their approach. The turtle traders took one system and applied it across different markets. They knew their system well and they traded it across all these different instruments. Another approach would be to do different systems on one market. One cannot easily say which approach is right, and in the end only a crystal ball will really tell. But for them, obviously the approach worked. Before going through the system they traded, you have to understand the Donchian channel indicator. The Donchian channel indicator is a line that shows you where the high or low was for the last X periods. So a 5 Donchian high will tell you what the highest price in the previous 5 bars were. If you put both lines on, you see the highs and lows, with the principle that a new high or a low could mean a new trend. Here's a quick example of how it looks. Right, so The blue lines are the Donchian indicator that's been placed on this graph. As you can see, as it made new highs, this kept getting pushed up and up and up, and then eventually it made a new high over here with no new highs after that. So that's why this line stays constant, because over those 20 periods, that was the highest high. So once it starts going past the 20 periods, you notice that it starts changing with it. The system itself was relatively simple, that if a new high was made above the previous highs, you would go long. On a new low, you would go short. So you would always go with the trend. The stop loss would be taking a shorter time frame, Donchian channel, and making that your stop. So using these rules as an example, the price closed above, say, the previous 20 highs, then you go long. You added a stop loss using the 10 Donchian channel. So entries based on the 20 Donchian, exit on the 10 Donchian. Here are the rules written out. They did have an extra rule though that said that if there was a new signal, it would be ignored if the last signal was a winning trade. So here are some examples of what it looks like. Over here you can see it made new lows on the 20 Donchian channel, made a new low, and it went short. These dotted lines over here is the 10 Donchian channel, so that's our stop loss. So basically what happens is our stop loss kept getting trailed there until eventually we have a close or a spike through it over here. So you went short here and you closed over here. Over here there was a new long, and same principle, there's a new close above the highs, so you go long, and we used our trailing stop and closed over here. Unfortunately, I missed out this part, but as you can see, it entered on new highs over here, and then it did catch some. As I said, the turtle traders applied this to different markets, and so here's a reasonably full list of what they did trade. As you can see, it's practically anything that was tradable, from bonds to bills to coffee to sugar, oil, market indexes, everything, forex. Now I found an algo free on the internet, and that wrote basically this system on MQL. The code is quite well written, and it's a very nice template to learn from. The code was written by Point Zero Trading, or www.pointzerotrading-trading.com. The link's at the end. So they deserve the credit for it. I've managed to convert this code to AmiBroker to do some testing on the system and see how it pans out. The MQL and the AFL file is available on myshares.co.za if you just browse around under systems, if you want to play around with it yourself. Here's a screenshot of the MetaTrader demo account running it, and then in comparison with the AmiBroker results. As you can see, it's very similar. That over here we entered long, we closed along there, entered long, closed along there. So you can see a nice big short over here, the nice big short over here, closed on the same candles. Here are the results for the S&P, DAX and Eurodollar. The rules on this robot have been slightly changed to the original turtle trading rules. The turtle's rules was the 20 Donchian period with a 10 stop loss. Okay, this algo uses the 80 period with a 20 stop loss or 20 for the exit. You can obviously change the parameters as you wish with this robot. Those were just the standard settings. So I thought, because that's what was posted, I thought I might as well just test those parameters. As you go through it, you'll see that the results weren't great. The best results came from the DAX on the 10, 15 and 30 minutes over here, highlighted with these arrows. Considering brokerage is around 5 points on the DAX, most of these results actually meant that the system was not profitable. So far I have tested the EA on a demo account. Please always use a demo account first to test anything. And the robot does run very well. even though the parameters itself might not be profitable. Before I forget, I just want to point out the testing period was only for 2012, 2013 and 2014, over those 3 years. So in conclusion, this specific system did not return great results on most of your shorter time frames. However, I do see value in learning from the EA that was coded. It was well written and can be adapted easily. It can also help teach one on how to write your own code. It even has a built-in position sizing technique, where the size of the account determines the contracts entered. I really do like the coding in the EA itself, and I believe if one plays around with the parameters a bit, you can get better results. Maybe even adding a layer or two to improve the stats a bit. Here were the sources that helped me make this presentation. Here's the point zero, and here's some of the guys that have written about turtle trading. My last thought is simply on the market or in life. Learn to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. There are events beyond our control that can happen and do happen. Rather be prepared for these events than simply sticking your head in the sand and hoping that it doesn't happen. One way to do this, on the markets at least, is to try and design systems that take small positions and allow for big returns, rather than taking big positions and hoping for small returns. So that's the whole presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. Ciao.